Wow, it has been 10 years since Gravity Falls ended. It, I really do honestly remember the day that the show ended. I was having ice cream with my family out of town from where I lived, and I was very, very impatient to see the last episode. They had two different airings of the last episode, if I remember correctly. The airing that I caught was the one that played later in the night before my bedtime. And I just remember I couldn't enjoy the ice cream with my family. The ice cream was still really tasty. It was, it's chocolate ice cream, but I just remember I could not enjoy the moment because I so badly wanted to watch that last episode of Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls is a show that truly changed my life because it's just a good show. And that last episode, man, does it really hit. I didn't know that the show was ending when I was a kid until like after I had seen the episode Mabel and Dipper versus the future. I just remember watching that episode, which is technically the beginning of the end for the series. I just remember watching that episode and just thinking to myself, what a fun little silly episode. And that episode when it ends with Bill just taking over Gravity Falls, man, was it terrifying, especially those end credits. And I just remember watching those last three episodes being really, really immersed into it. The first two parts of Weirdmageddon, I didn't think much about the fact that the show was ending. I just thought they were really cool and fun episodes. And they are. The last few episodes of Gravity Falls are really great and amazing. But there was a wait between the last episode, part 3 of Weirdmageddon. Dipper and Mabel vs. the Future had come out in September of 2015. Part 1 of Weirdmageddon came out in October of 2015, and Weirdmageddon Part 2 came out in November of 2015. But the last part, Weirdmageddon Part 3, took extremely long. Now, it's only like a 3-month span, but to me as a little kid, as a little 9-year-old, that felt like forever. That it took 3 months for the last episode to come out. I remember the teaser for the last episode of Gravity Falls, and oh boy, was it shocking. It really did feel like everything was coming to conclusion. Man, the last episode of Gravity Falls, it really is not only the perfect episode of Gravity Falls, but just a perfect episode of television animation in general. It's a really damn good episode, and it feels like every second was not wasted in that episode. I don't think words can properly describe how I felt when I watched the last episode of Gravity Falls. It really did feel, I do remember watching it as a kid. I want to say it was like 8 or 9 at night when I was watching the last episode. And it really did feel like, man, I really did cherish every second I had with those characters because, I really enjoyed Gravity Falls growing up. Maybe the reason I do have such an emotional connection to Gravity Falls is because I was really young when I watched the show. The series started in 2012, which I would have been around the age of 6 when it started, and ended in February 2016. I would have been around 9 when the show ended. And I was there for all of it. I was there for all the secrets. I was there for all the emotional moments. I was there for all the really funny moments. And even the funny moments I didn't understand until I got a little bit older.
I can swear for real! Son of a...
There's just something about the last episode of Gravity Falls that just really hits. It does feel like one of those things where it's just like you truly do just cherish every moment you do have with the characters. I don't really think I can really put into words how good the last episode of Gravity Falls is. It's just... Again, as I've already said earlier, it feels like every second is not wasted in the episode. Even down to weird little things like the Zodiac. You should listen to the Gravity Falls audio commentary for the last episode with Alex Hirsch, Jason Ritter, and Rob Renzetti, who worked on the show, and talk about the ins and outs of the last episode and the making of it. I really like listening to the Gravity Falls audio commentary. Not only listen to the audio commentary for the last episode, but just listen to the audio commentary for all the episodes in general. They're really good. It really is interesting listening to Alex Hirsch talk about the making in the last episode, because if you told me that he wasn't a wizard, I wouldn't have not believed you as a kid. And of course, it's not only Alex Hirsch that made this episode so great, but so many other people that worked on Gravity Falls, and some people that would later on make their own things, such as Dana Terrace, who did a lot of things for the last episode. She even animated Bill's death in the last episode. And as most people know, she went on to go create the show Owl House and the new current show on Glitch Productions, Knights of Guinevere. There's a lot of really talented people that worked on Gravity Falls that went on to make a lot of great things. I will show their names and faces on screen. But just as a 9-year-old watching that last episode just felt so real. Not only did the animation feel slightly different compared to other episodes, maybe I'm just kind of crazy, but to me the animation does feel a little bit more different. Obviously not that different, it's still television animation at the end of the day, but obviously you have great stuff, as I said before, with Dana Terrace animating Bill Cipher's death. But there's just a lot of little tiny details that just drive home, this is the end of the show, but the end doesn't mean over forever. For example, in the last episode, one of the first things Bill Cipher does is he sings the song We'll Meet Again, which is a World War II song for those that don't know. As a kid, I thought it was a song they made up for the show, but then later found out it's an actual real song that has existed more than 60 years. And it really is fitting hearing Bill Cipher, the main villain of this entire series, sing that song, because in Alex Hirsch's own words,
We'll Meet Again is sort of the perfect mysterious way to say, like, I might be going, I might not be going.
Right.
You know?
and I think that's probably the secret to that what makes the Gravity Falls finale so good, is that it's the end of the story, but it's not permanently the end of Gravity Falls. Now, for those that may know, obviously after Gravity Falls ended, there's been a lot of books and stuff afterwards. Later on in that year, 2016, they released the full Journal number 3, which shed a little bit more light on certain undescribed details that are left unconcluded in the show. In 2018, we got the Lost Legends book. In 2020, we got that wonderful Amphibia crossover. And of course, most recently, as of 2024, we got the Book of Bill, which describes what happened to Bill Cipher after the events of the show, which is probably the closest thing we have to Gravity Falls Season 3, if I'm being honest. The 9-year-old inside me absolutely loves all of the things they've released since the show has ended 10 years ago. And even though it is not exactly Gravity Falls Season 3, it still is nice to see that Alex Hirsch and other artists that worked on Gravity Falls still really do care about the show. As I mentioned before, there was the Amphibia crossover episode, which, although it doesn't have the Gravity Falls characters in them, it does have the frog variants of those characters. Amphibia is also a great show. I recommend you should watch it. Creator of Amphibia, Matt Brawley, who started his career as a storyboard artist on Gravity Falls, so I would imagine he also has an emotional connection to the world of Gravity Falls as well. Which makes sense why he would want a crossover episode between the two. At that point when that episode came out, the show was already over for 4 years at that point. But man, was the inner Gravity Falls fan inside me still starving for more content, because I was absolutely thrilled that they were doing a Gravity Falls crossover with Amphibia. Even bringing Alex Hirsch, the voice of Grunkle Stan, to voice his frog variant, the Curator. And also Frog Seuss, who only has like one line in the entire episode. And I feel like most endings for certain things, whether that be video games, movies, or TV shows, sometimes things that come out after the fact that the thing ended sometimes ruins the ending, but I feel like it's the exact opposite with Gravity Falls. With Gravity Falls, it does say that this is the end of the story, but my personal feelings of the finale, what the finale says to me about Gravity Falls is that this is the end of the story and the end of the summer of Dipper and Mabel's time in Gravity Falls. But just because it's the end doesn't mean that it's permanent. Where there's an end, there's also a new beginning. Whether that be within the world of Gravity Falls or within our real world. Because obviously after Gravity Falls ended, that meant there was a lot of possibilities for new shows to be created on the Disney Channel afterwards. As I've already said before, there's been lots of people who started their career working on Gravity Falls that went on to make lots of other great stuff. Although that example is just a little bit too meta. And obviously there's the stuff that I have already mentioned, such as all the other books and crossovers that have happened after the show's ending. And I feel like that's the message that Alex Hirsch and the entire Gravity Falls crew wanted to get across. Alex Hirsch even says this in the audio commentary for the last few episodes, that although it's the end, there's always a new beginning after an end. Those last few seconds of the finale are just so magical. Those last 5-10 minutes are just, they really just hit home that this is the conclusion of these characters. Maybe not the end of them permanently, but just the end of this beautiful summer that they had together. I just feel like the finale is a perfect blend of lots of things. A blend of happiness, and even a blend of dread. Now you're probably wondering what I mean by dread, but considering the fact that obviously there's a lot of messages left in the last episode that Bill Cipher didn't actually die, and also the Book of Bill confirms that, you know, he survived his demise in the last episode, even with the secret message he says in reverse when he's about to die.
XOLOTL! My time has come to burn! I invoke the ancient power that I may return! Yeah!
Echoes in the fact that this is the end of a chapter, but not the end. I just remember 9-year-old me just kind of standing the entire time. In all honesty, after thinking about it, I don't think I sat down a single time when I was watching the finale. I think I was standing up the entire time because of how invested I was in the ending. And I remember those credits playing and I was just crying at how beautiful the ending was. I really was. 9-year-old me was crying and my mom was in the corner rolling her eyes, wondering why I was crying about a bunch of fictional cartoon characters. Although I was heartbroken that it was the end of this show that I grew up with, there always was that still lingering thread at the very end of the credits. The Bill Cipher statue. As a kid, I didn't really know what that meant, but to me it always felt like maybe there's hope that the show may come back one day. Maybe there is. And as we all know, in 2016, the Cypher Hunt happened later that year. I wasn't really following the Cypher Hunt that much, but I was still happy to see that there were some Gravity Falls things happening after the show had ended. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, said that was his own personal way of dealing with the fact that the show ended. And what a crazy way to deal with that, because there's a lot of crazy things about the Cypher Hunt, which I'll probably leave a few videos better explaining it in the link below. In conclusion, there's been lots of shows over the years that have had beautiful endings, lots of shows that I personally love just as much as Gravity Falls. But there's just something at the end of the day about the way Gravity Falls executes its ending, and how after all of the things that have come out after the show's release, in my personal opinion, elevate the episode into being the greatest episode. All the various books from the Journal Number 3, the Book of Bill, Lost Legends. I feel like with other movies or shows that would probably weaken the ending of the show, especially finding out that Bill Cipher survived his death. But considering the fact that the episode is kind of about endings and beginnings, I feel like it just elevates the episode even more. Not only making it the best episode of Gravity Falls, but just one of the best finales ever on a show, animated or not. Faded pictures bleached by sun, the tales told, the summer's done. In memories the pines still play on that sunny summer's day. Hello there, thank you for watching my YouTube video that I uploaded onto the internet talking about the ending of Gravity Falls so I can cope with the fact that it's been 10 years since that show ended. I mostly do Let's Plays and a bunch of other fun, silly videos on this channel, so feel free to check them out. But if you like what you saw, feel free to leave a like, because I feel like that's going to elevate YouTube's algorithm. I'm not going to say subscribe, because I know most people subscribe and never watch another one of the videos, so I think it's better if you just leave a like. And if you're trying to cope with the fact that it's been 10 years since Gravity Falls ended, please leave a comment about your own personal experience with the ending of the show. Whether you saw the last episode the day it premiered, or years after the fact after the show had already ended. It would be interesting to see a lot of people's different point of view on the matter, and maybe start a good conversation in the comments. So please, leave a comment. And remember, do not make a deal with Bill Cipher.